You found your way into the gun store looking for your first pistol. How do you decide what to get? There's so many options on the table in front of you. Maybe you're a little confused. Well, let's try to clear some of that confusion up and get this figured out. Welcome to Armed Dad. I'm your host, Warren. I've been in the firearms for somewhere around 20 years plus. From hunting to target shooting to concealed carry to taking different courses. I have been a massive firearms supporter for years. I've been an avid gun owner, an avid concealed carrier, and an avid Second Amendment enthusiast. So I want to help share some of my knowledge with you. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what it is that pistols have in common, what the positives and negatives are to certain styles and types. It all comes down to what you're looking to do with it, okay? I've had a lot of people over the years come to me and ask me questions as far as concealed carry pistols, things like that, recommendations, what not to do, what to watch out for. And over the last few years, I've kind of come up with a list of things that are typical questions that a new gun owner might ask when they're looking for their first pistol. So let's weed through some of that. They're all unique. They're all different. They all have their own merits and advantages and disadvantages. So let's talk about why you're wanting to get a pistol, okay? That's the first case that you need to think about is, what is it that you're looking for, okay? Are you looking for a nice little target pistol? Well, maybe you would go with something like the Heritage 22 revolver. It's cowboy action. What does that mean? Cowboy action just means that it has to be cocked every time you want to fire it. So rather than being able to pull the trigger and the hammer sets itself, the hammer here, you actually have to cock the hammer back to be able to pull the trigger and fire the round. You cannot pull the trigger with the hammer down. Some of them have safeties, some of them don't. This one does have a safety, but it also has a spot where it is in safe mode where the trigger can't be pulled. All of them have that. That would be kind of your safety mechanism for that. They're also a little bit harder to load because you can't take the cylinder out. You have to actually spin the cylinder to load each individual round on these, okay? And that requires you to set the hammer to where it free spins and you can load each round. You'll close it back up and then you can either cock the hammer to fire it or you can set it back down to, I don't know, adjust what you're doing, get the target ready, get yourself ready, and then go to firing the pistol. These are great for target shooting, things like that. Long barrels, they make shorter barrels, 6-inch, 4-inch, 2-inch. I would not recommend this as a carry pistol, just not something you want to do. Cowboy actions take a little more dexterity, and you have to remember to cock it each time. So it's really not a great self-defense pistol. However, it is a fun pistol to shoot. I absolutely enjoy it. Let's move into a little bit different style of kind of more of a target slash varmint hunting pistol. It is another revolver. This is the Taurus Tracker. It is a 17 HMR, and this is more of a standard double action revolver. Now, double action, what does that mean? Well, it means that you can, in fact, pull the trigger, and it will cock the hammer as you pull the trigger. And I'm just going to show you, see it moves there, okay? Or you can choose to set the hammer and then pull the trigger. That gives you a little bit less trigger pull in order to set the firearm off. Now, the other thing is, it is very easy to load these style pistols because, well, the cylinder pops out the side, okay? Real nice, pops out the side, you load the ammo up, you drop it back in there, and it is ready to fire. They don't have any manual safeties on this one. In fact, most revolvers are not going to have a manual safety. There are some smaller versions of revolvers that do have things like that to help keep it safe for concealed carry. Again, this is not a pistol I'd recommend concealed carrying. It's very heavy. It's got a very long barrel, and that first pull you're going to have if you are concealed carrying something like this is going to be very heavy and hard to keep on target. It is not what I would recommend. But again, another fun pistol to shoot. So if you're just looking for something to target shoot with, fantastic. Now, let's move into more of a possible concealed carry weapon. This is the EA Windicators 357 Magnum. This again is another double action revolver. Same functionality, everything. It has a little bit different of a grip. It has finger grooves. It's a little shorter. It's a little easier to carry if you wanted to, but one of the downsides to carrying a revolver is you get 6 rounds in the revolver, okay, typically. The HMR actually carries 7, but again, would not recommend that as a carry pistol. That's more of a target pistol. So, again, cylinder drops out the side, you load it up, you pop it back in. They have the button to release the cylinder, usually located somewhere in that area. Some of them are different, things like that. But ultimately, again, I do not recommend carrying a revolver as a concealed carry pistol, not with today's market anymore. A long time ago, it would have been a great option. One of the reasons is the hammer sticks out. This can catch on things when you go to draw. It's not something you want to have happen when you're trying to use your firearm in a self-defense scenario. So we move into more of the semi-automatic range. Okay, so now one of the more common pistols, most common pistol in that semi-automatic world, if you have not seen one before in a movie, I'm sure you've heard someone talk about the 1911. This is a full-size 1911, so it's got a real nice long barrel. It again is a hammered pistol. Now, these are not a double action pistol. They have to be cocked for you to be able to pull that trigger, okay? You have to cock the hammer. The hammer has to be set. Now you can do that 2 ways. You can do what I just did there and cock it back, or you can rack the slide. I'm gonna have to drop the slide, and it automatically sets the hammer back, okay? Then it's ready to fire. Now, the 1911, a lot of them, most of them, have a safety on them. I don't know if there are any without, and I'm not going to answer that question. But in order to put the safety on, it has to be cocked back, okay? In order to function the safety, it has to be cocked back. The hammer has to be back. And that's because it's very unlikely that you're going to accidentally set it off with the hammer down. A lot of people like to carry that. I do believe, yep, it's got a partial cock setting that is essentially a safety. The trigger can't be pulled. This really can't move. There's no need for the safety now because it cannot be fired. However, there is always a risk when you have a hammered pistol that you could drop it and it would hit that firing pin and it would set the pistol off. Okay. 1911s also have a nice little back deal here. You'll notice when I'm trying to do that, I fumble a little bit. It's because this actually has to be depressed for the trigger to move. If you don't have this depressed, the trigger cannot move. Again, not something I would really recommend people concealed carry because it's bulky, it's heavy. You get 7 rounds of 45. If that turns your gears, then voila, you found the perfect pistol for you. Again, 1911, fantastic gun to shoot, fantastic gun to own. Would recommend owning one. But if you're looking for concealed carry, not really the way I would go because, well, it's bulky, it's heavy, and you're only getting 7 rounds, and you're carrying a full-size pistol. You hopefully only need one, but you never know. So, in that world, as far as hammered semi-automatic pistols go, there's a lot of different options. There are also micro compacts like your Walther PPK-S. You'll notice the hammer is rounded a little bit better, so it's not going to catch on as much things. It still has an opportunity to catch on things, whereas the 1911 is it's got that same kind of revolver hammer where it's got a nice sharp point that it comes to. It's rounded, not sharp, but you get the point. It comes to more of a point. This is more of a rounded. So it does lend itself a little better. That has magnets in it. That's why it keeps coming up. Anyway, it does lend itself a little better to concealed carry. I have carried this pistol. It's not bad to carry, but again, you're running into that same thing where you have 7+1 in the 380 versions of these. Now, this is a double action pistol. The hammer does not have to be cocked back for you to squeeze the trigger and move the hammer. I got to take the safety off. I know someone's going to cry about that, but it will actually... Why is it not going? Okay, there we go. So it takes a lot of force to pull that back. So if the hammer's down, this is going to take a lot of pressure to pull the trigger on a very small pistol. It's going to throw your accuracy off even at short distances because it takes a lot to pull that trigger. So I wouldn't recommend it to someone who's getting into carrying for the first time. Double action revolvers are the same way. It's going to take a lot to pull that trigger the first time with the hammer down. So unless you're planning on carrying with the hammer back, you're going to have a hard time. And if you don't have a safety, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you could accidentally touch the trigger and set the firearm off when you don't want it to. So while it is an option, it's not the best option. So then what do we move into from there? Well, we go to hammerless semi-automatics. These are fantastic. This is a Glock 22. Now you're getting into more of what I would start considering a better option for concealed carry, and that's because there's no hammer to snag on anything. They typically have more carrying capacity, things like that. And generally speaking, they're usually easier to conceal because there's not as much to them to try to figure out how to hide. Now, in something like this is going to be a little harder to conceal than the Glock 19, which is probably one of the top carry pistols on the market. A lot of people love carrying these because, well, it's Glock, and I have never had a Glock jam on me other than when this one had a little bit of a malfunction with some internals, which I fixed, and it went right back to normal. I've had this pistol for 14 years, mind you, and I finally had it start having issues. This one I haven't had nearly as long, but I have not had any issues with it yet. Glocks are a good way to go. Now, Glocks also make a micro pistol. We won't completely get into that conversation yet, but they do make the 42 and the 43. They make other extended versions of them. One of the downsides to something like this, say, is you're going to get, again, 7 rounds of 9mm, so you have a little bit less carry capacity. The grips are not as big, so you're going to have a lot more felt recoil. They're going to have a lot more muzzle rise because they have a lot less barrel, they have a lot less slide to take the recoil, and they're a little harder to control as far as bigger hands, things like that. They are going to be a little harder to control, but in a self-defense situation, you're typically talking from 10 yards in. I would say 7 yards in, but sometimes it might be out at 10. So your accuracy and the muzzle flip isn't going to be a big play in that because it's going to be more about getting it out, getting and using it when you need to. However, if you want a nice in-between, this is something that I would use for, I plan on trying to use this one for some competition stuff coming up, but that's because it's a full size. I like it. It's accurate. This is a 40 cal. So it might not be where you're looking to carry, but if you want something that's a little bit bigger than a 9mm, got a little bit more to it, a little more knockdown power, things like that, the 40 cal is a decent option. But a lot of people like to carry a 9mm because it's fairly cheap to shoot. Ammo is easily accessible. So maybe you end up in, like I said, the Glock 19. This is a fantastic carry pistol. It's kind of the mid between carrying a full size and carrying a micro. There are a lot of great micros out there that you can carry that would be fantastic. But if you want something with a little more frame to it, a little easier to control, you're going to have to go with something that's a little bit harder to conceal. Your Glock 19 is going to be in that realm. In that same realm, and I know there's going to be comments made, which is fine by me, you have the SIG P320. There's Smith & Wesson makes a version, things like that. So this is a modified 320. It's not an actual standard 320. This is what you would call a production pistol. This is what it's like out of the box, okay? This has been modified. It's got a different barrel. It's got a little bit different of a frame to it. But the other thing that I want to touch on now that I said frame is both of the 1911 and your Walther, okay, are full metal frames. So they're going to be heavier than your polymer frame pistols. That's something to consider because when you're carrying, you're going to be carrying this hopefully all day with you. Weight is going to be an issue regardless of how you carry it, okay? Weight will be something that will drag on you. So you want something that you're going to be able to carry for long periods of time. I don't carry this pistol. This is a pistol I use for just going out and target shooting. It could be carried, but I don't. I am a big fan of the micro pistols, okay? And we'll get into that in a minute. But we've talked about caliber, things like that. When it comes to caliber, you hear a lot of different opinions on caliber. Some people think that you have to carry a 45 in self-defense because, gosh darn it, the 45 will take someone's arm off. Well, no, not necessarily, but it is a higher powered round. It's got a lot more knockdown to it, things like that. People will say, oh, the 357 is known as the man stopper. You got to have that one. People say just carry a 9mm because the ammo is cheap and it's easy to get and you can shoot it a lot. And I would recommend that. Whatever pistol you're looking to get, make sure that you can afford to go to the range and actually shoot it. Because if you're not practicing with it, you're not going to be proficient with it. It's not going to be usable for you. So get something that makes sense for you. Now, there's going to be some comments made, I'm sure. Fine with that. I have had people who have talked to me recently, and they are not comfortable carrying a 9mm because they are not, they're not fans of the recoil. They're not comfortable with the pistol. And honestly, if you're not comfortable with the pistol and you're not going to carry it, then it's useless as a concealed carry pistol anyway, and you might as well not even waste your money. So we go to the compact 22s. This is the Smith & Wesson M&P version. There are many different small 22 caliber pistols on the market. Now, a lot of people that are going to be like, well, I'd never carry a 22. I don't trust a 22 to do the job, blah, blah, blah. It's not powerful enough, blah, blah, blah. Look, it's better to have one than not have one. So if what you're comfortable with is carrying a 22, something like this could be a viable option. I had a friend that carried a 22 for a long time. Now, we hope to never need to use the pistol, but the 22, in my mind, can get the job done as far as self-defense goes. There are some positives and negatives about this as well. When you're talking about 22, you could run into jams, okay? You're going to run into jams. Ammo, all of that goes into factor when you're shooting a semi-automatic 22, and it is because it is a low velocity round. It does not have the kick all the time to function the slide to make everything work properly. They're a little finicky, so they're not the greatest option when it comes to concealed carry. But if that's what you're comfortable shooting, that's what you're comfortable carrying, that's what you should carry, okay? Now, that being said, we'll move into kind of the micro discussion here. There's a lot of different micros. You've seen the Walther, you've seen the Glock. I have a P365. This is my daily carry. I like this one. The magazine is not locked in there. So, I love this pistol, but again, it's small. You're going to have a lot of felt recoil. What I really like about this one is the sights are nice. The grip is really nice. The control is nice. Even with that muzzle flip and the extra felt recoil, it's great. Some of these modern ones have the ability, like this one does, to have a optic put on it. You might not worry about that because, let's be honest, you're walking in for your first pistol, you might want to just go basic. Perfect. Maybe you want to get something that you can add things to. 365 is a great option. The Glocks are not going to be good options for that because there's really not a lot you can add to a Glock before it's not a Glock anymore. Anyway, another debate that's going to come up a lot that people talk about all the time and you hear mixed reviews and mixed ideas about are safeties. Why do I bring this up with this pistol in here? Well, that is because I bought this pistol without a safety. It didn't have a manual safety on it, okay? I added the manual safety for my own personal reasons. Make fun of me in the comments if you want. I don't care. I like having the safety. If safety is something that you want, the manual safety, and what I mean by that is something that is an external safety, not an internal safety. They do have, a lot of firearms have internal safeties. Glock has them. They have safety mechanisms in place to make them a little safer. However, when we're talking about safety, we're talking about the ability for that trigger to be pulled without your finger in the trigger hole. So if it catches on your shirt, something like that. A Glock, while people say that it's not going to happen because you got to have they have the trigger depress here that has to be depressed for the trigger to even function. It won't move until that is depressed, and then that trigger functions, okay? So that can still get caught on something, pull that back, and fire, okay? There's no external safety to set to keep that from happening. So safety is a massive concern in your mind as far as carrying goes. You're going to want to look into something that is Smith & Wesson, Kimber, SIGs. Gosh, I'm mind blown here trying to think of all the different ones. I'm not trying to give you all the brands, but you're going to want to look into other styles of pistol other than a Glock. A lot of what gets people with a Glock is the name. Okay, the name exists. It's been around for a long time. Glock's been making great pistols for a long time. So you hear it a lot. It is a popular pistol. But there are a lot of things to Glocks that maybe a new gun owner won't like. Maybe you'd love that. It's all personal preference. Like I keep saying, the best thing you can do if you're looking for a new pistol is to go in and ask questions when you're in the gun store. Okay? Figure out kind of what you're looking for, know what direction you want to go with the pistol you're looking at, and ask questions. Talk to them. They will help you. I hope that I've cleared up some of the things that might be questions you're having as far as actions, things like that, functionality of them. If you have more questions, feel free to subscribe to the channel and add a comment. You can also follow me on Instagram at armeddad.yt, and you can get more content there. You can ask questions there. I try to respond as much as I can to people because I do genuinely enjoy getting people into firearms. Don't forget to click the notification button so you get notified the next time a video comes up, because I do plan on doing more first-timer videos for people that are looking for information. I have a lot of people that I know that were first-time gun owners that are first time into certain guns, first time into concealed carry, things like that. They ask me questions, and I respond as best I can, and I realize that maybe more people would like to have this knowledge. So it's there. Again, subscribe, get notifications. These kind of videos are going to be popping up on this channel. Share them with people you know could benefit from having some of this knowledge. When it comes down to it, though, purchasing a pistol, purchasing any firearm for that matter, is a lot of personal preference. So maybe you find a range, a gun store range that has rentals. You can go rent some of these different pistols, try them, feel them. There are a lot of different. I don't have a fraction of what's actually out on the market to show you. I just have plenty of different types of actions to show you so that you can kind of get a feel of like what's out there and what you're kind of looking at. But it's always expanding. There's always new things coming out. There's always new models. There's different brands. Canik is another great one. When it comes down to it, you're going to want to know where your price point is, what your intentions are with it, what you're looking to do with the pistol that you're looking to get, and you're going to want to know ballpark what you're going to be able to afford to shoot regularly. Because again, one of the biggest things that I would recommend you have is a pistol that you can shoot often. You can go to the range with. You can make sure that you're proficient with your weapon, because carrying a weapon that you're not proficient with is ultimately not going to be beneficial to you. So what I prefer to tell people is get the pistol you like, that feels good, that's nice to shoot, that you're comfortable shooting, that you're comfortable carrying, and something that you can afford to shoot fairly regularly so that you can stay practiced and proficient with the firearm you have. There are drills and things you can do without needing to actually fire the firearm, but that is for a totally different video. We're not going to cover that here. Anyway, I hope that I've brought you some knowledge. I hope that I've helped. If I have, please like the video, share it with other people. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification button so you're notified the next time I drop a good video. And again, follow along on Instagram at armeddad.yt. Thank you for joining me. Go out there, find that first pistol, and enjoy the world of firearms. There's a lot out there. It's a great space to get into, and I hope this helps better your journey into the space. Thank you for joining me. It's been another episode of Armed Dad. Until next time, get out there and find the perfect pistol for you.